Tall, dark and handsome, so 6-pack, 6 foot tall and 6 figures, rich guy. If you're expecting to marry a king, you have to be a queen befitting for that king. Especially on your first date, you don't want to be telling the guy, oh, I can't stand men that eat with their mouth open. Hi guys, welcome to Life and Living with Lade. On today's episode of Face Friday, I'm going to be doing a topic that I have titled Deal Breakers in terms of courtship before marriage. Because I don't want to assume that everybody watching understands or knows what the meaning of a deal breaker is, I'm going to read it from the dictionary. And this is the Oxford Dictionaries. It says, a factor or issue that if unresolved during negotiation would cause one party to withdraw from a deal. A deal breaker in my own terms is something that you can't stand and you can't live with. For some people it's very superficial things. It might be superficial to you, but for them it's very important. I know one of my friends cannot stand the guys that eat with their mouths open. That's a deal breaker for her already. She knows she can't live with it. She can't stand it, period. You know, as a young girl or teenager, most times girls have a list of things they want in men. And I always use this example: tall, dark and handsome, so 6-pack, 6 foot tall and 6 figures, rich guy. It's great to make that list of what you want in a man or a husband, or if you're a man, what you want in a wife or a lady before you marry her. But one thing I always tell young people whenever I get a chance to talk to them is, it's very great to have a list, but it's also very important to be all the things that are on your list. For instance, you want a man who has a relationship with God. Do you have a relationship with God? I mean, because you don't want to be creating double standards. If you're expecting to marry a king, you have to be a queen befitting for that king. So make sure you arrange yourself to be that queen material suitable for that king. I had somebody ask me one day, when should I let my partner know my deal breakers? Is it on our first date, second date, when? And I'm thinking, you're not even supposed, don't bring up deal breakers on any dates. Don't bring up deal breakers. What you need to do with deal breakers, they're there for you to observe the person's behaviors. So apart from having deal breakers, once the man has made his intention known, the first thing you need to do is to seek the face of God. And it is possible to hear from God about your spouse. It's possible to get a confirmation. For me, what my confirmation was, God told me that He would have the same purpose as I have. While I was single, God worked on me breaking down my purpose to one sentence, as I said in the last video, and that was the sign. You know, God had told me that this person would have the same purpose as I have. And even though I thought that was great, my deal breaker was, that was one of my deal breakers, but I wouldn't mind if it was a similar purpose but not the same purpose. But it happened that it was the same exact sentence. And yeah, that was my sign, and that's how I knew that person was the one. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 deal breakers that I had. The first deal breaker for me in my courtship leading up to marriage was a man who loves God. I could not be in any courtship with somebody who was unequally yoked as me. I needed a man who loved the Lord, period. If a man can love God, then he can love me right. The second thing, which is also important, is a man that had a purpose, a vision and a plan. In Ephesians 5, the Bible talks about wives and how they should submit themselves to their husbands. And I strongly believe that submission means going under a vision, submission. And if your man doesn't have a vision, what are you going under? So the man has to have a vision, a clear vision, and you have to be able to work with him, because God has made us helpers. As women, we're helpers, and I don't want to bring all this, my skill, my knowledge, my everything that God has endowed me with, to just come and be idle or not use them you know, to make this vision or purpose that he has given this man come to pass. One of my mentors used to say that the lack of knowledge of the purpose of a thing leads to abuse. I don't want to abuse our marriage. I don't want to abuse, you know, our union because I don't understand the purpose of our union. So it was important that I understood what the purpose of his own life was, so I don't abuse it. The third deal breaker for me in courtship leading to marriage was a man who shared the same values as I did. Things like integrity, attitude, leadership. A man who thought that those things were important. Values in terms of parenting, that's very important. My fourth point is a man who can take care of me. And again, like I said in the beginning, you know about your deal breakers when you observe a person's behavior. And I remember on one of our dates, I don't think it's our first date, I don't even remember, we went somewhere and he was just a gentleman, you know. He would open the door for me. He would make sure I'm seated before he sits down. He was genuinely concerned about my well-being. If we went to the movies, he would make sure, you know, I was comfortable in my seat. Even if he liked that seat, he would make sure we sat wherever I wanted. Like, he just wanted me to be comfortable and he wanted me to be fine. You don't need to let your spouse know about these deal breakers, at least not in the beginning, because then if they were pretending, they would pretend even more. The fifth deal breaker was a man who was from a good family. It was very important to me. It might not be important to you guys or to anybody else, but for me it was just very important because in my culture, when you get married, you're not just getting married to that person, you're getting married to the whole family. So the family was also important, but the most important thing about the family was, again, values and being unequally yoked. I couldn't, you know, even if I was equally yoked with the guy and I was unequally yoked with his family, that was a deal breaker for me. So I just wanted to make sure that both him and his family are, you know, on the same page with me when it comes to the things of the spirit, loving God, and also with the values. So that was 5 things. But one last thing that was on my list but wasn't a deal breaker was I really somewhere deep down in my heart wanted to marry a man that, you know, I would look at and say, geez, this man is fine. I wanted to marry a handsome man, most especially a man taller than me. God is able to give you everything you want and more. He was not only as tall as me, he was taller than me. That's all I have on today's episode of Faith Friday. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't. If you've watched this far and you haven't subscribed, it's time to subscribe. Until next week, don't forget to be the best version of you. Bye.